All right, so we're going to kick off today. This is the Stellenbosch University LaunchLab Vision 2021. Today is going to be a bit of an informative session. We just want to let you know what we've been working on, let you understand the model a bit more. There's been a lot of great changes at LaunchLab over the past 12 to 14 months, already building on an incredibly strong foundation. So I just want to give you all those updates and insights, and then that'll go for about 20-25 minutes. I know everyone's probably webinared out at this point, so I don't want to speak for too long. We do want to open this up to Q&A. We very much believe in talking to our users, talking to our customers, and gaining insights from them. So please bring your questions. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, not in the chat button, but actually in the Q&A. Any questions you have, any comments, please post them there, and Altus from our team will lead that Q&A session. So again, about 20 to 25 minutes of discussion and then Q&A. And I really appreciate everyone joining today. We have 65 people on the call now. We had, I think, 145 signups from 3 different continents. So it's great to see people from all around the world getting involved. So let me screen share here. There we go. Yeah, so welcome, Vision 2021 webinar. And actually, we did this almost a year ago to the day. This was the first really webinar via Zoom that I did last year. And we made the comment at the time that adversity is opportunity. We would have had probably a smaller session at LaunchLab had it not been for the pandemic and the lockdown. Last year, we also had about 150 people sign in across 4 continents. And today, I think this has all become a part of life for everyone, but this opportunity to get a message out there in an even bigger way has really been a massive opportunity. And I would say the LaunchLab team has really lived that adversity is opportunity mantra for the last year. And you'll see that come through in the presentation today. So first of all, welcome to Stellenbosch University LaunchLab. You'll see even from last year, there's one at least already big difference is our new brand. Our team's done an incredible job really rebranding and thinking about how do we more closely align with our core asset, which is Stellenbosch University. One of the top universities across the African continent, tons of smart people, ideas, R&D, IP, facilities, just a massive resource for early stage companies. And you can see now our colors, our brand, our name is much more aligned to the university, and that is very intentional. So that's something that's already different from last year. At Stellenbosch University LaunchLab, we have a very definitive mission that we talk about a lot as a team. And that mission is to transform seemingly impossible ideas into world-shaping businesses. If we double click on that and go a bit deeper, we really work in that 0 to 1 stage. We're working with everything that is at times seemingly impossible. So really from idea to that 1 is what we call product market fit. And product market fit means you're selling a product, you're hopefully finding a replicable and scalable business model in order to do so. You're starting to sign proof of concept contracts or proof of concept contracts. You're starting to bring in revenue, you're starting to attract financing. So we really live in that 0 to 1 space. We do it because we think we're decent at it. We also do it because we think it's what the continent really needs. There's not enough incubators. There may be enough accelerators or Series A investors, but there's not enough people doing the hard work at the front end in order to really build these ideas into what we call world-shaping businesses. And that means businesses that can go outside the South African borders, that can be scalable. And we do work with companies all across the range from SMEs or small businesses all the way to scalable startups. But our real mission and what we get out of bed to do in the morning is to transform seemingly impossible ideas into world-shaping businesses. And it's important to note that we've had some success doing this. We've been named the UBI, so university-based incubator, top in Africa since 2017, I believe. So won that award a couple of times and have been able to really differentiate ourselves as a key player in the South African and African incubation ecosystem. And with that, we have a vision. This is our North Star. This is where we're walking towards every day, that by 2025, we want the Western Cape and the Stellenbosch region to be the world's go-to destination for what we call globally conscious startup activity. We want people all around the world, whether Europe, South America, India, Africa, to say, if I want to build the hard thing, if I want to do the thing that matters and can really move my business as well as society along, that I have to work with Stellenbosch University LaunchLab. We do think of ourselves as co-founders. We meet a lot of incredible technical experts. I can't code, I can't build hardware, I can't build software, but I think I have some experience in helping build a business. And that's where we think the two can really come together. we can be that variable cost co-founder on the business and entrepreneur development side. And you'll hear more about how we do that. I also want to highlight that, again, coming back to this massive resource of the university, just really highlight how good Stellenbosch University is at generating R&D. And one way to show that is through patents. So this graph down here, there's a lot of numbers here, but I'll summarize it pretty quickly. Stellenbosch University has been awarded more patents than any other entity in South Africa since 2010 by a decent margin. So that does mean that the most of the really novel ideas are coming out of this university. And if you try to normalize that for spend, because obviously in South Africa, we don't have the same budget as you would in the United States or Europe. So if you normalize that per dollar of spend, we're actually splitting out companies at almost a 2-to-1 rate versus our counterparts in other parts of the world that have potentially more resources. There's also some interesting statistics about those spin outs and how many do survive, which I don't have those numbers in front of me today, but can definitely follow up with those. So overall, we're doing a ton of research and development, generating patents at the university, and doing it in a very cost-effective manner. And the real linkage that happens here, and to make it clear how we work, you have the university, which is generating this intellectual property, these patents. You have Innovis, which is our partner and technology transfer owner for the university that really sits between ourselves and this massive R&D resource and helps to bring IP and patents and ideas and companies and entrepreneurs out of the university in a systematic manner, in a manner that meets the regulations of South Africa, that's good for the university and good for the entrepreneur. We work very closely with Innovis, and we are the business incubator that links this whole thing together. So from my own experience, I know even if you have a great idea, you need a business model. You need to figure out how to fund it. You need to figure out how to generate revenue, how to sign contracts, how to build a team, and you need support in that journey. So that's really how this works. And to make it clear, we work with companies all across Africa, all across the world. They don't just have to be university companies. About 25% of our portfolio right now is university technology, but we are working with companies all across Africa at this point, and hopefully the world in due time. But the core asset and the great resource that we have is this amazing institution and are our partners at Innovis. And we've been doing it. We've been doing it for 6 years now and trying to pull off what is a very hard business model. I would say incubators are not the easiest thing to figure out how to make them work. You're administering a very valuable service, but generally your customers, which are your entrepreneurs, don't have cash. They can give you equity, but equity takes a long time to turn into cash. So the ability to stay out there, to stay solvent as an incubator for 6 years it's no small feat. And we've been able to do that and do it very successfully, incubating over 225 businesses, helping them raise over 360 million Rand of risk capital. That would be the size of potentially a decent sized venture capital fund in South Africa. Those companies are creating jobs and they're increasing revenue and paying taxes. So that's really incredible. And as I said earlier, we do want to focus on the hard things. We want to focus on the things that other groups across Africa, the global South, are not focused on. With that said, we're probably not focused on fintech or insurance tech or certain things that are very well subscribed and seem to have great partners out there. We're not that additive. What we want to be able to do are do things that we find impactful, that we're passionate about, and that we think the continent and the global South really need. Once we pair that with the resources of the university and the things the university is very, very good at, agricultural sciences, science, health, data science, things of engineering. I mean, we have these massive resources. They really overlap with what we're passionate to build and what we think the continent needs. And that's what we're really trying to work on. So climate, agri, and health are our main focuses. We've had incredible success, and I think it's really just the start. If you saw the Vision 2020 webinar, you can see how much has changed over the course of the last year. But I would say it's really incredible to build on a very strong foundation. We already had a great brand, we had good programs, we had great companies coming through, and now we're just taking that to the next level and making it even more scalable and more impactful. So over the next 5 years, or now 4 years, we're looking to give over 5,000 students an opportunity to learn entrepreneurial techniques. Remember, you don't have to start a company in order to be an entrepreneur or to learn things like design thinking or lean startup methodology. These are great formats for making decisions in an ambiguous environment, which is why we use them for startups. But life is pretty ambiguous as well, as COVID has shown us. So learning about design thinking, learning about lean startup methodology is really important for everyone, even if you're not just starting a business. We want to be able to get more companies and ideas from the university and turn them into great companies. So we're going to do that across climate, agri, and health, and launch hopefully help build over 200 companies over the next 4 years. We've already worked with, I believe it's 15 companies last year in this capacity. We want to spin out more companies from all the incredible intellectual property of the university. Innovis is the main point of contact for that, but we work very closely with them, figuring out, is this research a commercially viable idea? And that's something we're really, really focused on, is taking this through a process to learn, can my great idea become a business? We want to help build revenue. In the end, every 0 to 1 company, their whole goal is to sell something. And that's all product market fit is. Sell it and see if you can sell it many, many times in a replicable and scalable manner. So we have to generate revenue, and we want to generate jobs. I mean, even before the pandemic, we knew that South Africa and Africa overall has what either could be an incredible demographic dividend or destruction due to population growth. And we hope to be on the side of solving that problem by creating jobs. So how do we do this? It's one thing to say this is all the stuff we do, this is how it works, but how do we build startups? And there's really 2 key things that we really focus on that help us to build great companies, amongst other things. One of them is design thinking. So these are really the core methodologies that we use. I'll get a little deeper into the programs, but we use 2 core methodologies. The first one is design thinking. Design thinking is an opportunity to use a bit of a scientific method and use a systematic process for experimenting in an ambiguous environment. We use the definition of a startup as it is a temporary organization searching for a scalable and repeatable business model. Very different than a corporate, very different than an established company. You're searching for a scalable and repeatable business model. Once you have that, you have what's called product market fit, and then you can grow the business. We're helping companies do that. We're helping them search for that business model. The first thing is building empathy with your users, understanding the customer problem you're trying to solve, defining a design challenge. What is the problem that you're looking to solve, and who is that user you're looking to solve it for? Ideating creative solutions, going broad before going narrow. If you have a well-defined design challenge, then you can have lots of different solutions. And then we quickly use what we're going to see soon is called agile engineering, which is basically an MVP prototype format to take those solutions that are informed by the market, informed by our empathy building, get them out in the market in rapid prototype, and really keep aligning your product offering with your customer discovery to help gain product market fit. So design thinking is a systematic process to go about building a startup enterprise by searching for that scalable and repeatable business model. When we couple that with lean startup methodology, and these are the 3 big building blocks of lean startup, which was coined by Steve Blank and Eric Ries. We had Steve on a webinar last year. I'd highly recommend going back and watching that webinar. If you didn't catch it, it's pure gold in terms of how to build an early stage company. The 3 pillars here: business model canvas. So really understanding your strategic environment that you operate in. Who are your competitors? Who are your customers? What are the hypotheses that you're looking to validate or learn from? Customer discovery is the major thing we do here. The worst thing you can do in a startup is sit behind a desk and build something you think the world will love, but not talk to anyone. So for every smart engineer, smart scientist out that comes to LaunchLab, it's gonna be a bit uncomfortable. We're gonna ask you to do what we call get out of the building and go talk to humans and go listen to them, ask them questions, understand the problem, put something in their hands and get feedback. That process of customer discovery is critical in agile engineering. So you can think of customer discovery and product development being defined by agile engineering as a cycle. The more customer discovery you do, the more it informs your product development, the more customer discovery you do, and being able to use an MVP and being able to use a lean, rapid iteration format allows companies with scarce resources to learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible, to achieve the definition of a startup, a temporary organization searching for a scalable and repeatable business model. So we use these core elements, and we really focus on business development, entrepreneur development, and what we call foundations for scale. So we're going to work with you from a business perspective to help you test and help you learn and help you set up the foundations that you need, which are generally non-sexy things like accounting and understanding your customer and CRM and things like that, that you could spend a lot of time making mistakes on your own. Let us help you do that. But we work a lot with the human as well. So entrepreneur development is a massive part of this. And our belief is that we're working on quality over quantity. We're not going to be able to bring hundreds of companies through here every year and be able to develop the company and the entrepreneur. So we're picking our spots and only admitting select companies and a very few amount of companies in, but then working in a big, big way with all those companies. So let's just dig a bit deeper into how we use design thinking and lean startup methodology to help build great companies. First of all, we believe in really a hybrid model. This was pre-pandemic. We have all of our lessons and our curriculum online. And so you're going to go online, and it's a really world-class platform that a Cape Town startup called Digime, and I'm going to give a big shout out to them because they've been incredible, helped us build. And so our premise here is that if we're going to sit down together, if I'm your mentor, I'm going to sit with a company, our time is very valuable. As an entrepreneur, you should be out talking to customers. You should be building your product. You should be selling. As a mentor, I have a busy schedule. I have things I need to work on and things I need to get done. So every week, you're going to be able to have a specific lesson like customer discovery. You're going to be able to watch videos that talk to you about why is this important? How do you do it? We have case studies. We have live entrepreneurs coming on and talking about how this helped them build their business. There's a question bank that runs through this. There's some AI and ML built into the background here to help make sure people are learning. We kicks off a bunch of data to help us understand where people are getting lost or where they're really excelling. And then we pair that with a cohort session. So every week during our programs, the entire cohort comes together and one of the senior members of LaunchLab or an expert comes in and administers specific content. We could be talking about fundraising. We could be talking about customer discovery, about design thinking. And then every week you're going to meet one-on-one with your mentor. I'm going to talk about our mentor program in a second, but you can think of this as a hybrid model. The best way to get you the content is online. The best way for you to roll up to a meeting informed and ready to go is through an online platform. Pairing that with a cohort session taught by an expert, and then pairing that with one-on-one mentoring is what we think will give everyone the highest probability of success and definitely the most learning throughout the program. Our mentor program is something that is critical to our business. We had a mentor training in December where we had 40 mentors come through. And these are incredible entrepreneurs, business people, ecosystem partners, just an incredible array of very experienced people who are unpaid, who are saying, I want to give back. I want to teach people. I want to grow the ecosystem. And they really are very invested in our companies and in our program. We had over 100 applications. We picked 40. We had a training. They have to sign a commitment that they're really willing to give themselves time, effort, and really their all to these companies. And then we pair them based on a mentor matching process. The entrepreneurs pick their favorite mentors. The mentors pick their favorite companies. We do a qualitative assessment and bring the two together. There's a mentor lead on every program that really helps coordinate. But we really do think of our mentors as the foundation of what we do. Every early stage company needs more smart people working on that problem. But as Peter Thiel said, a startup is the least number of people possible to get product market fit. So how do you add that expertise? How do you add those team members without increasing your cost? Mentors are a great opportunity as well as our programs. And then what does that look like? I'm going to get a bit deeper into our programs now. So we talked about design thinking, lean startup methodology, our mentors, how the program works. Right now we have basically two big programs. One is called Countdown, one is called Liftoff. And you can really think about these as moving on a continuum from left to right, which would be level of business risk or level of business maturation versus probability of success. So Countdown, I'm going to get into in a second about a bit deeper how this works. But I guess the point here is that there are really 4 quadrants that we work in. One is Inspire. So we host webinars, we host informative talks. We want to be able to get people inspired by entrepreneurs. And we had Steve Blank last year. We had Revolut, one of our companies. We had Mobizyme talking about their business. So how do we inspire people to try entrepreneurism? Once you've been inspired, you can build. And build is Countdown and Liftoff. If you want to grow, then that's what we call Supernova. Supernova is a program we'll likely be running later 2021, but still figuring out if that'll be on the docket for this year or next year. And then support all the way through. We know entrepreneurs need support. We know they need a friend, a partner, a shoulder to laugh, to cry on, and someone to laugh with as well. And we offer that through our community, both the mentor community as well as our co-working space and our cohorts within the programs. So what is Countdown? As I said, as we grow into build, if you have an idea in an early stage company, or if you just want to learn about design thinking, Countdown is a great program for you. The premise is, I have an idea, but is it a business? I will even step back from that and say, even if you have something that's working, this is really an opportunity to learn design thinking and to learn how to use that throughout the course of your business. You can use it to test an early stage idea. You could test it to test the market expansion, test pricing, test marketing. It is a very scalable and replicable system for really testing an idea in a business environment. So this isn't only for early stage companies, it's for really anyone who wants to learn the design thinking and lean startup methodology. We do a lot of get out of the building. We work a lot of customer discovery, and it's going to take you through the full gamut of that design thinking process. And this is how it looks. The first week, you're going to learn about design thinking. We're then going to talk about how you can build empathy. How do you do customer interviews? How do you develop a customer discovery pipeline? How are you gaining those insights and then documenting them? We then get out of the building. So we're going to give you all the tools necessary to go out and have these customer discussions and really help you through that, because it can be a scary process. Then we quickly go to define, ideate, and prototype. So really quickly, we're going to take all that data that you gathered. And you can really think of this as, instead of hearing a problem and generating one solution and trying to build it without talking to people, we're going to hear a problem, we're going to go back and generate lots of data, and then figure out how to really data mine for certain hypotheses, certain correlations, certain ideas, so that we can then create more ideas, more solutions, and then use that agile engineering to create an MVP and get it back in customers' hands. So you'll see, you get out of the building again, and then we bring it all together with a demo day. And at the end of this, you'll have a pitch deck, you'll have a financial model, you should have an MVP, you'll have a lot of customer discovery documentation. So you have the basic underpinnings of a data room. And at this demo day, we look to have angel investors, seed investors, even Series A investors, ecosystem partners, grant funders in the building, and our mentors, so they can continue to help you move your project or your idea along. Our second program, which we do ask most people to go through Countdown first, that does give us an opportunity to work with you and you to work with us, because a lot of that is really testing the entrepreneur as well. When the going gets tough, when we ask you to get out of the building, are you going to go and work in that realm of ambiguity and be a bit scared to do it? Or are you going to hide under your desk and want to work behind your computer? That's a real big thing that we have to test, because we want everyone to go do their customer discovery. It's critical in defining an early stage business. Companies can come into Liftoff without having gone through Countdown. But in our November cohort of Countdown, we had 8 companies, 5 of them went on to Liftoff. So it does provide a really nice way to go through the incubation process. One of our hypotheses is that companies need longer. They need longer in incubation. Most incubators are 3 or 6 months. We don't think that's enough time. So Countdown, you have 9 weeks. You can then take some time off, come to Liftoff. Liftoff is a 22-week program, which we may make a bit shorter, but for now it's 22 weeks. And that gives you more time to start building what we call the foundations. Like, this really is the opportunity in that growth stage. So you validated the idea, you validated a concept, you learned design thinking. Now, how do we start to grow that? And the big focus here is obviously generating revenue. Every business needs to make money. Every business needs to have customers. So how do we continue working with you to start your go-to-market strategy, to start getting revenue in the door, but at the same time, continuing to work with the entrepreneur and continuing to build the foundations. So it's a light data room with curated service providers, and then really thinking about the entrepreneur. How do we help you grow through that process of potentially moving out of a corporate job or academia into full-time entrepreneurism, which is very, very different. And as I said, it's really focused on business development, entrepreneur development. We plug in product on the side because none of us are engineers and none of us are data scientists. And even if we were, a chemical engineer is very different than a hardware engineer. So we bring in experts. We bring in people who can really add that product development aspect to what we do. Similar concept to Countdown. You're going to have an online curriculum. You're going to have a cohort session every week. You're going to have a one-on-one mentoring session. And then you're going to have Brandon and myself, our portfolio managers, really looking over the entire portfolio and working with you one-on-one to help move your ideas forward. So those are our main build programs. That is the core of what we do. In the end, an incubator is here to transform seemingly impossible into world shaping. It's here to build great companies. That's what we do. That's what we're passionate to get out of bed to do in the morning. That's what we really want to do. As I said earlier, the incubation model is an interesting one where you have to do other things in order to earn the opportunity to work with incredible companies. So we do a number of things now that also help us to fund our business, as well as help us to scale our impact. And I want to say all these things are very mission aligned. They all help us to be better entrepreneurs, to be better at building businesses, and to help get this whole concept of an incubator out across Africa so that more companies can grow and more businesses can flourish. The first thing we do there is incubation licensing. So there's a number of groups all across Africa that want to build an incubator. Well, the best thing to do is work with someone who's done it and work with someone who's both had success as well as had some failures or learned some lessons in the process. So you don't have to start from day one. Working with LaunchLab, you can start from year number 6. And we've learned a lot through the process. So what that looks like is you get a world-class incubation program online. We can white label this for you. It can be your brand. And basically you can license, Countdown, or Liftoff from us, and then add in your own specific variances for your market. So we can help you create content on top. We can help you bring in case studies from local entrepreneurs. It gives you an opportunity to take a program that's already working. You don't have to pay for the content, at least to generate yourself, and you don't have to build the whole thing. You can use ours to start, and then over time, make that more of your own. We also help you build the mentor program. We help you build the pipeline. We help you market the program. And so what's that look like in actuality? There's a development phase, this is pretty similar to if you're buying Salesforce or any other software platform. We're going to help you turn that into your own platform. So it'll be white labeled with your brand. It'll look like your online brand. It'll be powered by SU LaunchLab, but we want your brand to remain prominent there. We'll help you create content of your own if you'd like. We help you build the mentor program, and then we get it going. We help you build the pipeline, so you make sure that you get great startups in. We help you have your kickoff event, and then we stay with you throughout the first running of that program through this implementation advisory in order to make sure the program runs well. And then at your discretion, we're able to help you iterate that program for the second iteration. We look to do 2-year contracts because that gives us time to work together and time to really get this going. And by the end of those 2 years, hopefully you have a sustainable platform. And that's also, we do a lot of expert consulting in order to help people build incubation platforms that can be sustainable, which is not easy to do. And what's an example? So Maker's Landing is an incredible, incredible project at the V&A Waterfront. I would highly recommend to go down to Maker's Landing and check it out. It's been an amazing endeavor by that group to bring real South African food and culture to the V&A Waterfront. So Maker's Landing is now up and operational, and we built the food incubation program for Maker's Landing. So that's all powered by SU LaunchLab. It's their white label, it's their entrepreneurs. We help them build the pipeline, hire the right people, build the curriculum, and basically implement that curriculum. And it's an incredible project. So we look here, it's community through food. And this meets our mission because it is transforming early stage businesses into something that can be world shaping. It's taking things that are already a bit built, but making them much better. And then also adding job growth, adding revenue growth, and trying to really help young entrepreneurs or early stage companies get their product out there and scale more. We have a second example of Startup Namibia. We're working with a group out of Windhoek. It's a GIZ funded project. And their whole goal is to grow entrepreneurism and innovation across Namibia. They came to us because there are great ties with the university and a lot of prominent people in Windhoek, and the university has a great reputation, and said, hey, could you help us? So we're doing 70 hours of expert consulting to help them build a sustainable business model based on what we know. And then also they're gonna be able to license our incubation content so that they can start just getting going. You can run the program, it's yours, but we'll give you the tools necessary in order to go through it the first time. Really get you from 0 to 1 very, very fast. And we're looking to do this all across Africa. We would love for these to be a network. If I wake up in a few years and all of a sudden we have universities and startups, startup incubators across Africa, all connected in a network, then I think we really start to see some level of scale in terms of the funding, market access, ecosystem exchanges, selling into new markets. So this is where it starts to get really interesting. So we're not just doing this to make money. We're doing it because it is mission aligned. We're doing it because it helps to scale the idea and the impact. And it frankly helps to solve a very difficult model, which is how do you make incubators sustainable and how do you build entrepreneurs across the continent? This year, we're also doing a number of pitch competitions. We've done these in the past and we've really found them to be pretty valuable so long as there's something to do next. I'm not a big believer in having a pitch competition to do some social media and to have the ideas die and give away a little bit of prize money. For us, our pitch competitions are a way to work with great mission aligned partners. We did one with World Wildlife Fund last year and Santam. Great partners around climate resiliency, around being able to think about actually Agricultural Sciences Department of Stellenbosch University was also a partner there. And so really thinking about how do we take some of the things we're learning within the university, the local ecosystem, the broader ecosystem, and bring those to bear in a specific pitch competition with great partners. This year, we'll be running at least 4. We have our student pitch competition in April. We'll be focused on medical and science in June. Agri and data science, this is something we're really focused on, is this intersection of agriculture and data science. to really make definitely certain things across Africa more productive and more efficient. This is, I think, a big thematic opportunity for us. And then climate and sustainability. So that'll be something we'll do later this year. So if you are a partner looking to get involved in sponsoring or being part of a pitch competition, you should definitely reach out to us via the website. The last thing here, and I think I kept us a little bit to time, is our Techpreneurship Center. So we're kicking off on our data science bootcamp on February 1st. So it starts next week. We're taking in 20 students, and these are partly university students, partly from corporate, and then partly at large. We had over 80 applications. We accepted 20 students. And this really is 6 weeks of very intensive. I'm going to say this is a very intensive curriculum that's going to help upskill you. And my personal opinion is in this fourth industrial revolution, every person, especially with any sort of STEM background, adding these data science skills on top. So this is machine learning, AI, Python, cloud computing, statistics. How do you use all these things and getting a really 6-week baseline knowledge of these things so you can decide if I'm a scientist, if I'm an engineer, even if I'm an artist, and this is the way my mind thinks, how do I plug myself into that realm of data science? This to me is a massive, massive opportunity for the continent. We have relatively low operating expenses here in South Africa, especially if you're working with international companies, or no matter what work you're doing, learning these skills early in your career is massive. So we are running this starting on February 1st. We're going to run this at least 3 times this year, maybe 4. So keep a watch out on our website as well as social media for the next cohort. We will make this probably 40 people in the next cohort, and it's going to be open to the overall ecosystem broadly. How do you get involved? So you heard a lot about our programs. You heard a lot about what matters to LaunchLab. You heard about how this whole thing works, our portfolio, which is really Countdown and Liftoff, and then our ancillary products, which are Incubation Licensing, pitch competitions, and the Techpreneurship Center, this data science bootcamp. How can you get involved? We're running our incubation programs all year. So Liftoff, we already have 9 teams in that cohort starting on March 1st. Countdown, we're actually starting next week with 10 teams from actually all across Africa. We have a Kenyan team, we have a Senegalese team at this point. So Countdown kicks off in February, but then we'll run a second cohort in May. And then the TP Center, like I said, kicks off on February 1st, looking to run another cohort in June. So go on our website. If you go under entrepreneurs, you're going to see a description of all these different programs. You're going to see an application. Our applications are always open, so they're always rolling, and we're always looking to bring people into the system and understand where they can plug into the next cohort. And we try to be very responsive. We have a small team, but if you put an application in, we will get back to you and let you know what the next steps in the process are. If you don't have a company, but you want to be a mentor, the best way to really work with us, we get a lot of people who say, oh, I'm an alumni, I have a business I started, how do I work with you? Is really to become a mentor. It's going to allow you to see our programs, it's going to allow you to work with our entrepreneurs. Same concept here, you throw in an application online, we'll get back to you. We do pretty heavy mentor screening. We want to make sure that our mentors are qualified, mostly a lot on the why side. Why does this matter to you? Why are you going to be committed to this? Why are you going to be dedicated? As well as your experience to make sure it's going to add value to our companies. Go on the website, put an application in. If you are building an incubator across Africa or have an opportunity to do so, or if you're a development finance institution looking to fund an incubator in Africa, please reach out to us. We have a number of different opportunities in the pipeline right now, and I think we found a really awesome model to help scale our impact and really to help incubators go from 0 to 1 a lot faster. Don't make the mistakes that we did and learn from the successes that we have, because we are starting to find a very replicable and scalable and sustainable model here. And then lastly, we have an open fellowship. So if you're a student, if you are looking to make a transition into startup life, the best way to de-risk that, the best way to give it a try is a fellowship. So if you go on our website, you can apply for the fellowship, and you'll either work with LaunchLab itself. We have 4 fellows right now, 1 working with us on incubation licensing, 1 helping run our programs, 1 was helping administer our programs with the university, and then 1 was helping with marketing. But we're always looking for new people to come work on our team. And then we also are looking to plug people in with our companies over the course of 2021. So if we know one of our companies needs a business development person, they need a finance person, they need an engineer, throw in a fellowship. It's 4 to 6 hours a week. It's a low stipend, but it's a great opportunity to get involved and to learn a bit more about entrepreneurism without diving all the way in. Lastly, I'll point everybody to the website. Going full circle, this is our new brand. Everything that we do lives on this website. We're going to be adding another tab very soon for our portfolio for all the companies that we're actively working with right now. So you can see who they are. You can better understand their needs as well. We're always looking for partners to add expertise, to add funding, to add any insights to our companies as well. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll see portfolio up here as well. Everything you need to know, this is your first stop. We are a small team. We try to be really accommodative of people, but the best thing to do is look on the website, put an application in, and then we have at least your information so we can figure out where and how to work with you. So I want to say thank you. It's been an incredible 6 years at LaunchLab, and for myself, about 13 months. We feel like we really are building a model that can transform seemingly impossible into world shaping. We have a real clear way of doing that. And we're really working to find the best entrepreneurs all across the continent, to find the best mentors, to find the best partners and work with them. And we just know that we'll be in the trenches with you. We do view ourselves as co-founders, and we're going to give it our all to help build great companies from Stellenbosch and for across the continent and across the global South. So thank you for the time today. I do see there's a number of questions in the Q&A, which is awesome. I love that. So I'm going to stop talking and give it to Altis, and he can moderate the question and answer.
Awesome, thanks, Josh. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. I've been with the LaunchLab since September, and I must say, honestly, I think we've come like a long way since I've really joined. So, yeah, from the webinar that I've watched last year and where we're now, I think, yeah, we made some really good progress. Awesome, yeah. So we have quite a lot of questions. I hope we get through everything. I'm going to start with the more incubation focused questions. So we have one saying, is LaunchLab the appropriate avenue to use if a startup is primarily seeking to validate product functionality using the university's research facilities? For example, a startup seeking to use the university's polymer labs to validate a novel formulation. So basically, trying to work with the university to basically further the goal. How does that relationship look like, and is that the right avenue for a startup?
On the product side, I would say you can come to LaunchLab. I would say also we can connect you with Innovis as well. Anytime people are doing research within the university and using university resources, there's very clear legal things that we have to do in order to make sure that the university benefits from that as well. So it's not exactly what we do here. I would think of us more as a business incubator. I'm not an engineer, no one on our team is, so I'm not going to be able to help you build something. We also are owned by the university, but we're not part of the university. So I'd say that's not exactly our focus, but if you do have a question, then you definitely can drop us a line and we can figure out a way to either connect with Innovis, who does manage that relationship within the university, or at least point you in the right direction.
Awesome, thanks. And then the next one asked if we've also, or if we just focus on technical products, or if you're open to great ideas that focus on software projects like team engagement, social flourishing products, and processes for teams. So not necessarily technical ideas or companies.
Yeah, very good question. I look at it as you go through our process. Countdown is really open to every type of company. It can be anything from really anything. And it can be something like you said here with software. As we move through our process, one thing that we want to be able to focus on is creating scale within our product offering. We're offering services. So if we become too broad as companies mature, and all of a sudden we have software for teams and we have fintech and we have climate and we have agriculture, it really makes us too thin to add a ton of value. Those are all very different types of companies. They have different types of funding models. They have different types of market access partners. So as you move through our programs, the more specific we're going to get to only work with climate, agri, and health companies. So again, if you have any sort of product, any sort of idea, I would apply for Countdown. I would get in there, go into Countdown, learn about design thinking, learn about validating your idea. That can be anything. In this next cohort, we have everything from plant-based foods to agricultural data science platforms to solar energy. Those are all companies in our next cohort of Countdown. As we move through, we might say, hey, if you're not doing climate, agri, and health, then we may not be able to work with you, but obviously we're going to try to help find the right place for you. So start with Countdown, get that application in, let us look at all your information, and we can make a decision based on your ability our ability, frankly, to really add value to your company.
Awesome. I think actually that leads good into the programs that we run. So there was one question, if these programs are open to basically any company or any industry, or if it's purely educational.
No, our programs are open to
in terms of the licensing. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'll say for Countdown Liftoff, our programs are open to anyone all across Africa or across the world, frankly. We really can be anything, so throw that application in and we'll figure out where you fit into the whole system. For incubation licensing, same concept. I mean, really what we do is step back and say, is it mission aligned? For us, we have a very limited team. We have a small team, limited resources, and we want to always come back to our mission of transforming seemingly impossible into world shaping. So we look at every opportunity. We looked at Start Namibia. We looked at Makers Landing and said, is this mission aligned? If it's something that we don't feel is mission aligned, then we probably shouldn't be dedicating resources to it. So we will work with anyone. I would say throw in, we'll at least talk to anybody. I should say that. So put an application in, let us know what you're looking to build. And if we feel like there's good alignment there, and if we feel like we can really add value, then we're happy to work on that project. But that's really, it has to be something that we feel like is transforming seemingly impossible into world shaping.
Awesome, thanks. Then we had some questions on the cost for the programs, so Countdown and Liftoff, and then also if somebody is not able to meet that, if there's any basically avenue we can follow.
Yeah, so this is the fascinating part about incubation and why we actually do a lot of expert consulting and license out the model. It's a very hard model to fund. Most incubators, private incubators, are funded by a wealthy individual who likely had an exit and wants to effectively diversify into a number of different companies, and they put up some money. And think about it, you have to pay out money today to earn equity, to hopefully have that equity be worth something in the future. But in the meantime, you're not earning cash. So that's why these models are very hard to make scalable and make sustainable. For us, the way that we really do that is by doing all these different other things, like working with the university, incubation licensing, and other things. But the real hope here is that we can get these programs out there. They can be used by people. So we don't want to turn people down. So in Countdown, the recommended payment is 20,000 Rand. It's a 9-week course. You're going to have a one-on-one mentor. You're going to have access to online curriculum. You're going to have cohort sessions. 20,000 Rand per team doesn't keep the lights on for us, but we want entrepreneurs to be invested. And whenever you pay for something, you are invested. If you come to us and say, I only have 10,000 Rand, we'll take a look. And if I only have 5,000 Rand, we'll have a conversation. We're not going to let money be the determinant of your ability to enter the program. It's really, where is that critical moment where you feel like you are paying for something that you value, and when the going gets tough, you're not just going to turn it off and walk away. So in this current cohort, we have people paying 20,000, we have people paying 5,000. It's really about the entrepreneur and the idea and their commitment to it. As we move through our programs, in the end, our goal is to become owners of your company. It's not because we want to get rich, it's because we want to be co-founders with you. We want to help you build your company, but we don't want you to have to take on a large fixed cost and a salary. So as we move through Liftoff and beyond, we'll talk about taking equity. We'll say, here's the services that we can provide for a 3% equity stake. And I think it's a very robust package, especially given what the market offers. Most, the market for incubators is we'll take 7 to 8% for basically 3 months worth of incubation. Our programs and our offer for Liftoff and beyond is effectively 6 months of programs, of one-on-one mentoring, of market access, of financial access. And we look to take about 3%. So we can discuss that with companies, but as we move through our programs, we want to become owners in your business so we can help align incentives and grow the business together. So again, put applications in. There is a field on the application basically saying, here's the cost. What do you think? And the first thing is to have a conversation, because we want people to value the programs first and foremost.
Awesome, thank you. So there was actually a question on what a founder practically receives when they complete the course, like Countdown or Liftoff, which I think you pretty much covered there. Then we have a question.
Let me just speak to that real quick though, Altus, because I do want to make it very clear. By the end of Countdown, you will have done a lot of customer discovery. So we're going to force you to talk to a lot of people. So basically now you have an entire business model canvas, at least the customer segments of a business model canvas. Who are my potential customers? What are the hypotheses that underlie my assumptions about those customers? My target segment, my pricing, my product. We're going to help you flesh those out. So you're going to have a pretty robust document that really says, here are my potential customer segments. Here are my hypotheses I think about my business. Here are the people I've talked to. Here are my insights. That will help you build a pitch deck, a really informative pitch deck, making sure you understand the customer problem. You've spoken to the customer. Here's your product development. Here's your funding need. You're also going to have a bit of a financial model. So we're going to help you walk through your assumptions on the revenue and expense side over the next 6 or 12 months. where am I going to get money? Where am I spending money? How's that all work? So you're going to have a bit of a budget and a financial model that'll come out of that. And you're going to have a little bit of a checklist on the product development side. And we've gone to some of our CTO friends and said, hey, like, what are the things you would have told yourself in early stage product development? How do you think about sourcing materials? How do you think about contract manufacturing? How do you think about engineering costs? So we're going to give you a checklist to go through so you can understand what may be coming down the pike. So by end of countdown, you basically have a data room. You have a data room of a pitch deck, a financial model, customer discovery, and a bid on product that if you want to go to angel investors or seed investors and continue your idea, or if you want to bootstrap it, you have the ability to do that now. For liftoff, we're assuming most of our liftoff companies have that underpinning, but by the end of liftoff, you have an institutional data room. You have a data room that's ready to go for any sort of seed or Series A investor. A data room is a means to an end, but in order to build a data room, you have to have done the work. So we're going to walk you through all these ways to think about go-to-market strategies, to think about financial models, to think about the really operations of your business. And if we do our job well, to help you start selling or continue selling or increase your sales, because then you can build something around that. So I do want to make it clear what comes out of both these programs. And at the end of both programs is a demo day. We're working very tirelessly now to make sure the right people are in the room for that demo day, so that when you present your concept, you present all your learnings, it's going to find a very receptive audience that could either help you build your business, help you fund your business, or help you continue growing on the entrepreneurial path.
Awesome. Actually, on that funding note, we have a question. So apart from the pitch competitions, if there's any other channels or avenues we work with in terms of securing funding for startups?
Yeah, it's a good question. So that is something we're focused on right now. A lot of incubators like to build a fund. I mean, ideally, we don't really want to put together a fund right now, but we do want our companies to have some funding. So we are working closely with a number of different investors and really trying to create a small curated list of investors that we work with. Angels, seed, Series A investors. These are our preferred vendors, if you will. These are the people who know and trust us, who we know and trust. I think that's really important. There's definitely some behavior in South Africa that I think is relatively, is not the way I would really want to enter into startup life. So we're trying to create that curated network of financing groups who can come and help. We're also bringing people in. I forgot to mention one of our biotech fellows right now who has pretty deep access to grant capital and to funding partners. So right now, we don't have any financial capital to give companies. We give a lot of human capital, but we want to be able to connect people and eventually potentially run fundraisers. Like that is one of the functionalities that we do think could come out of this model. Something I have a lot of experience in is saying, okay, we validated your concept, you've done your customer discovery, we really like working together, we're now both partners, we've earned equity in your company, now let us run your fundraise. Let us be effectively your CFO for the next 6 or 12 months. And for that, we'll earn a fee or we'll earn more equity, whatever continues to align us. So the long answer is through the demo day, financial access, market access, we hope to, on a best efforts basis, secure funding for our companies. We also help to give you the skills where you don't need as much funding. If you're doing customer discovery the right way, if you're doing product development the right way, if you're staying lean and agile, if you have a budget, if you know what money you have and what money you're spending, believe it or not, you're probably going to get there a lot faster. Don't let I don't have money stand in the way of starting a company. That's just a design constraint that you have to work around. So funding is a necessary evil in some of these businesses, but shouldn't constrain you or us from working together.
Awesome. All right, then we have a question on basically delivering custom workshops, for example, with design thinking to a mixed a cohort just for like average or everyday guys, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, keep throwing these ideas in. I mean, on our Contact Us page, we had a group come through last week with 2 secondary school students and their fathers. And they said, our kids are going off to potentially school next year, or they need to make a big life decision, right? I should step back. School is an option. It's not the only option. There's lots of different options. Would you be willing to run a one-day design thinking course for our kids so they can go through the design thinking process? And the design challenge there could be design your life, design your 20s, right? That's a big design challenge that many of us automatically take one solution, go to university and do that, or I don't know, start a business, whatever it may be. These are all solutions. So we are looking for different products to offer that really meet people's needs. So that may be one that we offer in February. Alta Session and I have been talking about a web development data science boot camp, if you will, like a 3-day session where you're going to learn how to do some basic coding and web development mixed with design thinking. So how do you build a website or build some sort of app that is based on the design thinking lean startup methodology around some customer problem? So we're building out our core, and then once we have the core asset, which is our curriculum and our mentors, we can start to build smaller programs. So those really are on demand. We're looking for cool ideas. We're looking for things we feel like could be impactful, especially the student one I really love. We just frankly need to find enough time to build all these things and run them. But if you have an idea, send it on the website, contact us, and we'll start working with it on you. We'll start working with you on it.
Okay, awesome. Then we have 2 questions related to IP. So basically, how do we ensure that if an idea is submitted on the website that is protected, and then also to the role of the IP protection and the role of Innovus? What are the process of that, and how are these IP costs covered?
Yeah, so on the IP side, I mean, first of all, I would say put up whatever you're comfortable putting up. I mean, if you're on the website or if you're on our application, if you want to be a bit more general, like don't give up your IP by our application. We don't need to know that much, and frankly, I'm not smart enough anyway. I would have no idea what that means. I'm also like not a huge believer in a lot of the IP stuff, in the sense that like a lot of the things that we're going to add is business model. And generally it's not IP, it's just execution. If you do have a question about that, and if you're from the university specifically, then you want to reach out to Innovus. If you are at the university, if you're a student, if anything that you're doing is coming from your experience at the university, Innovus is your first stop. Anita now runs that group. Nolene Singh and Yobert Devet and Madeline Klein are our counterparts over there. I will definitely make sure, just go to the Innovus website and there's a disclosure form. That's your first stop. And they will walk you through the process. They'll tell you about how that works. They'll tell you about how they look for IP, how they do pay for patents for a number of different ideas, not to say they will for yours specifically, but that is your first stop if you're from the university. If you're non-university, I mean, put up on the application what you feel comfortable putting up, and then we can always have a discussion if you feel like there's additional IP that we need to know about.
All right, awesome. Then there was one question on if we're open to other industries outside, for example, the agri, which you've mentioned. So some examples were tourism, GBV, and waste management. Sure.
Yeah, I think especially for Countdown, earlier stage, I'm a big believer everyone needs to learn design thinking. Everyone needs to learn lean startup. So no matter what kind of company you're building, we want to work with you. We want to be able to offer these design thinking workshops so people have these skills. Frankly, I use design thinking to end up in South Africa. My wife and I went through a design thinking process and our design challenge was, where do we want to live in the world? That was an interesting way to go about it. So if you have any idea, if you have any sort of business that you want to build, put an application in for Countdown. We can figure out if it makes sense for us to work together. As we move through our process, we want to become more specialized and more specific because that helps us build funding, market, and partnerships that are specific to certain industries. There needs to be some critical mass, or else it doesn't really make sense. So that would be climate, agri, and health as we move forward. But for Countdown, we're willing to look at all industries and all ideas.
Okay, cool. Then we have a question on if we interact with other incubation hubs internationally, and if so, through what medium this is done.
Sorry, say it one more time, Altus.
The question reads, do you interact with other incubation hubs internationally? If so, through what medium do you do this?
I think it's one of these things that we would love to say yes to. Like we'd like to say we want to. We're a startup. We are very much a startup as well. So you have to focus your resources and your time in the highest priority areas. So I would say that's a nice to have, but not a must have. We are looking to figure out how do we partner with, whether it be US or European universities, especially to help build incubation centers across the continent, other universities across Africa. So we're always looking for these opportunities. I don't think we're actively pursuing them, but one of the hopes of these webinars is that our message resonates and people reach out to us and say, hey, this sounds great. We'd like to partner with you. And then we can explore that. But it doesn't help us transform seemingly impossible into world shaping. It's not the #1 thing we can do to build great companies here. So we haven't focused as much on it, but the hope is that it is something we do in the future.
All right, awesome. Then there's a question on if there's a list available of launched incubatees. where the public can basically see that, to see what we're doing?
Yeah, if you go on our website under entrepreneurs, all the way at the bottom of the page, you'll see it's not 225 companies. I think it's probably closer to 50 or 60 that we've worked with. There are some testimonials on the website as well. So you can go on and check that out, and it'll give you a description of the companies and who they are. And then also, like I said, we'll have a portfolio page up there, I'd say in February, that shows the current companies. And these are, I think at this point, it's about 20 companies that we're actively working with right now. And we'll make sure that everyone knows who they are. I'd also send a little bit of a note out that BioCode had a nice article in Venture Burn yesterday. So that's one of our incubation companies and a technology transfer company. So definitely Google BioCode and Venture Burn to see at least an example of one of the really cool companies we're helping build.
All right, awesome. I think that pretty much concludes it. I think our time is almost up. So
awesome.
Yeah, there's one or two more questions, but I think you can email us directly if there's anything else which is specifically what you want to find out. But otherwise, yeah, thank you.
That's great. Yeah, and I see Helen through my email address up on the contact list. So yeah, feel free. I would say like go to the website, put an application in, or hit the contact us button. The more information you can give us up front, it saves everyone a conversation to understand where do you fit in, what are you looking to do. We're happy to have those, but again, we want to focus our efforts on building great companies, not on responding to emails. So definitely go to the website, give us more information, would be great. Give us feedback as well. If there's something missing on the website, something that doesn't make sense, if there's something I said today that's not really aligning or you're not really understanding how it works, let us know. We'd always like that feedback. But overall, we feel like we're in an incredible spot. We're very much aligned with the university and Innovis in terms of our brand, in terms of our resources. We have a number of programs we're running right now between Countdown, Liftoff, Techpreneurship Center, Incubation Licensing, pitch competitions. I think I named them all, hopefully. But no matter what, we're really excited to work with great entrepreneurs, great partners, great mentors across the continent and across the world to really turn Stellenbosch, turn the Western Cape into the go-to destination for globally conscious startup activity. So thanks so much for dialing in today. And again, reach out to us via the website if you have any questions. But have a great 2021. Remember, adversity is opportunity. Thanks.